We are in at 3:2:15. Om Jnanatimidandhasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Shadvetam Shavadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hodhi Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyevacha Pratitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vashari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Swashanta Rupesh Vitarai Surupayar Abhyardhyamanesh Vanukampitatma Paravaresho Mahadangsha Yukto Yajopi Jato Bhagavan Yatagnihi. The personality of Godhead, the all-compassionate controller of both the spiritual and material creations, is unborn, but when there is friction between his peaceful devotees and persons who are in the material modes of nature, he takes birth just like fire, accompanied by the Mahatattva. Purport: the devotees of the Lord are by nature peaceful, because they have no material hankering. A liberated soul has no hankering, and therefore no lamentation. One who wants to possess also laments when he loses his possessions. Devotees have no hankerings for material possessions and no hankerings for spiritual salvation. They are situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord as a matter of duty, and they do not mind where they are or how they have to act. Nasty body. So the devotees, Swashanta Rupeshu, are peaceful in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakala Ashanta Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ateva Shanta. The Brahmabhuta Prasanatma Nashochati Nakankshati. On the spiritual platform, there's no hankering and there's no lamenting, and therefore the devotee is peaceful. Shantim apnoti nakama kami This kama kami is a very interesting word. Those who desire, desire. Desiring, desire. Kama kami. Srila Prabhupada expresses this as agitating the mind for sense gratification. The mind gets fixed on bhukti or mukti or siddhi, and these things have no real value ultimately, but by sankalpa, by imagination, one becomes obsessed with these things. And then one can't be peaceful. So the devotees are peaceful because their only desire is to serve Krishna. Then Srila Prabhupada, I'm summarizing, talks about how the non-devotees sometimes harass the devotees. Durvasa Muni harassed Ambrish Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj. And so the Lord sometimes appears accompanied by his plenary portions controlling the Mahatattva when such friction takes place. So as fire takes place from friction, when there's friction between the devotees and non-devotees, the Lord sometimes appears. Mam kediyatyeta djasya janma vidambanam yad vasudeva gehe vrajay chavasori payadiva swayam puradvyavat seed yadananta viryaha. When I think of Lord Krishna, how he was born in the prison house of Vasudeva, although he is unborn, how he went away from his father's protection to Braja and lived there incognito out of fear of the enemy, and how, although unlimitedly powerful, he fled from Mathura in fear. All these bewildering incidents give me distress. This is a transcendental feeling on the part of Uddhava that the unborn personality of Godhead has taken birth in a prison house, that he's fled in fear of Kamsa to live in Braja, how he fled Mathura in fear. This appears very bewildering. Of course, the devotee is ultimately not bewildered. The non-devotees, avajananti mam muddha, they're bewildered by all of these things. Manasim tanamashritam, thinking Krishna an ordinary human being. Param bhavam ajananto mama bhutamesha. Yeah, there's more that could be said there, and Prabhupada's purport is there. But any questions so far?
We often hear the devotee should be always free of lamentation and hankering. While engaging in Krishna's service in ISKCON, how a devotee can maintain that mood, because there can be stress sometimes and
so many lamentable things in ISKCON. First thing is that this hankering and lamentation especially refers to material hankering and lamentation. The materialists or hankering for sense gratification. The Gyanis are hankering for intellectual stimulation or for merging into the Brahmajyoti. Yogis are hankering for mystic powers. And then if they don't get them, or these various non-devotees, if they don't get what they desire, or they get it and lose it, then lamentation. But there's also hankering and lamentation on the spiritual platform. Devotees are hankering to serve. They're hankering to be engaged in Krishna's service. That's hankering, but it's not material hankering. Similarly, if they see that there's people are not taking to Krishna consciousness, or they're not able to spread Krishna consciousness to their satisfaction, then they sometimes lament that I couldn't bring this person to devotional service, or I couldn't achieve this for Krishna or that for Krishna. Mm-hmm. Or we lose the association of a devotee, or someone leaves. So that may also be lamentation, but it's not. There's so many songs, Narottam Das Thakur simply weeps. So lamentation is not in itself condemned. But within ISKCON also, we shouldn't be hankering for simply what we want. I'm hankering for this post, or I'm hankering for this perk, or this recognition, or this facility. That we should be a little careful of. And then we shouldn't lament if we don't get this or that or the other thing. Of course, we may hanker to do something for Krishna, or to have some particular service for Krishna. But then if it goes a different way, then all right, Krishna will have some other plan. Just Prabhupada, I was reading the other day, he left Los Angeles. He'd set up Los Angeles as the world headquarters for ISKCON. And he was set to sit down there and translate and bring devotees from different parts of America especially, and see they were trained properly and so on. Then some things happened, and Prabhupada left America. And while leaving, he went before the deity. Why are you kicking me out? You brought me here, and now it's like you're making it you're moving things in such a way that I have to leave. Why are you doing that? But then, actually, Prabhupada was speaking in Vrindavan. He said, I saw that now Krishna has given me so much more. That's when Prabhupada began some of his, of course he was already preaching internationally, but Indian activities and other activities he gave more attention to. So Krishna had some plan. Yes?
So, this is said, Bhakti and Siddhi, they don't have any substantial value. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
So, isn't Mukti a little bit spiritual to be used?
Mukti, what is this? Kevalyam narakayate. Prabodhananda Saraswati says, Mukti is like hell. How is it substantial? It's like floating in space. That was Prabhupada's example. If you land on a planet, then you're somewhere. It may be a higher planet, it may be a lower planet, but at least you're somewhere. If you're floating in outer space, you're nowhere. You have no substantial position. So the Salvationists may not exactly be in the material sphere, but they're not in the sphere of spiritual activity either. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that they're holding their identity in abeyance. They're holding their their personal identity in abeyance. Like holding it in check, putting it on hold. Like the way you put someone on hold on your speakerphone, on your telephone. So personal identity is an eternal fact, but because they don't like that fact, because that fact has proved painful for them, they try to block their spiritual identity, to hold it in check. So that's not a substantial, okay, you've stopped the material suffering, but you haven't gone anywhere. You're still nowhere. Prabhupada gave the example that there was some child, he had a fever, the doctor was called, the doctor injected the child with poison. The mother said, "My child's not breathing." The doctor said, "Is the fever gone?" If the fever's gone, everything's all right. So the accomplishment of spiritual suicide is not a substantial achievement. As we'll find in later verses, this merging into the impersonal effulgence of the Lord is what the demons achieve. So it's no great thing. Is that okay? Dunoti cheta smarato mamaitad yad aha padav abhivandya pitro tatamba kamsa durushankitanam prasidatam no krita niskritinam. Lord Krishna begged from his parents for their, Krishna's and Balaram's, inability to serve their feet, due to being away from home because of great fear of Kamsa. He said, "O mother, O father, please excuse us for this inability. All this behavior of the Lord gives me pain at heart." Purport: it appears that Lord Krishna and Baldev were both very greatly afraid of Kamsa, and therefore they had to hide themselves. But if Lord Krishna and Baladev are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how is it possible they were afraid of Kamsa? Is there any contradiction in such statements? Vasudeva, due to great appreciation for Krishna, wanted to give him protection. He never thought Krishna was the Supreme Lord and can protect himself. He thought of Krishna as his son. Because Vasudeva was a great devotee, he did not like to think of that Krishna might be killed like his other children. So, out of his love for Krishna, he broke his promise to Kamsa. And the Lord didn't want to disturb this parental affection of Vasudeva, so he agreed to be carried to the house of Nanda Yashoda. Just to test the intense love of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna fell down in the waters of the Jamuna while his father was crossing the river. Vasudeva became mad after his child as he tried to recover him in the midst of the rising river. These are all glorified pastimes of the Lord. The most brilliant part of his supreme character was that he begged pardon from his parents for being unable to serve their feet while absent from home because of fear of Kamsa. The Lord, whose lotus feet are worshipped by demigods like Brahma and Shiva, wanted to worship the feet of Vasudeva. Such instruction by the Lord to the world is quite appropriate. Even if one is the Supreme Lord, one must serve his parents. A son is indebted to his parents in so many ways, and it is the duty of the son to serve his parents, however great the son may be. This is a point Srila Prabhupada rarely makes, actually. He's usually talking about, he more often speaks about detachment from family affection and family and bodily identification. But here he speaks about the moral duty of the son to serve the parents. While speaking to Vasudeva, Lord Krishna said that anyone who has the opportunity to protect elderly parents and doesn't do so is like a dead body, although breathing. It's so ungrateful. The religious code specify. I mean, from one point of view, everybody has to be taken care of by somebody. We were discussing the other day that the woman has to be protected by her father in childhood, by her husband in married life, by her sons in old age. So nature's arrangement, even the animals are protected by their parents, and so on. So it's the duty of the human being, especially the son, to see to the welfare of the parents. The modern society, that's also in the Bible, honor thy mother and thy father. In Indian civilization, this principle is still very well established. And in other parts of the world also, these traditions are still current. But in modern so-called civilization, these things gradually go down. And disrespect to seniors becomes the standard. We were discussing, maybe you and I were discussing the other day, someone I was discussing with. I was talking with one devotee some years ago who had been, he was a big businessman and disciple of Gopal Krishna Maharaj. His father was also a devotee, owned the Sylvania light bulb franchise for all of India, and had many big business projects. So he was telling me his story that he did his education, and then he was working in his father's factory, and then he was doing this, and then when I was 26, my father gave me permission to start my own business. So this is not extraordinary at all, but in America they would say, your father gave you permission? Let me get this right. You had to ask permission? Yeah, it's like inconceivable. In India, before the son will take up such work, he'll want the permission of his father, the blessings of his father. In America, the son just says, listen, this is what I'm going to do. And if the father doesn't like it, listen, back off. Okay? You do your things your way, I'll do things my way. This is common. This is common. So and then as far as taking responsibility, that also. Why should I, old parents are kind of a drag. They're old, they're crabby, so why do we want to have them around? If we have some money, we can put them in a nice institution, or maybe arrange for state care But why should anything fall on me? This attitude comes. This is most uncivilized. It's a matter of duty. And this is the standard. Sorry. Oh, could you get me, yeah. Maybe one of the ginger ones is good. They're sitting on the desk. Not that. That's welcome also, but that's what we need.
Green.
Religion means prescribed duty. Prabhupada wasn't really keen on this word religion. Prescribed duty. Even religion is really a system of prescribed duties. Whether it's Christian religion or this religion, what is my duty? So this in Kali Yuga, religious principles fade. And what you get instead is the standard becomes what I want to do, what I like, what feels right, what suits me. Yeah. That becomes the standard. What benefits me, even. We see that a king like Shivi Maharaj was ready to sacrifice his whole body to protect a pigeon that had taken shelter of him. Now, who wants to sacrifice his body? But the king, as a Kshatriya, thought, it's my duty to protect this pigeon, first of all. And now that protecting the pigeon means I have to sacrifice my body, all right, I'll do that also. As a matter of duty. Arjuna was advised to fight the Kurukshetra battle as a matter of duty. What pleasure would there be? Ka priti syaj janardana. What pleasure would there be in killing his own family members? What is that? Advarta dhartarashtrana ka priti syaj janardana. What pleasure will there be? That was his argument. How will we be happy? By killing the sons of Dhritarashtra. But Krishna said, Anarya drishtam asvargyam, akirti karamarja. This is not how an Aryan thinks. It won't make me happy. How will I enjoy? Rudhira pradigdhan. What is that? I didn't bring my book today. Ashnanti Divyan. That's a different thing. Anyway, this is. That's a different verse also. You're close, but. Swajanam hi katam hatva sukhinas yama madhava. What happiness will we get by killing our relatives? And let's see. Let's see. Bhunjiya Bhogan, second chapter. Rudhira Pradigtan. Everything that we would want to enjoy, Bhunjiya Bhogan. Rudhira Pradigtan will be smeared with blood. All the good stuff that we'd want to, how can you enjoy all these things that are smeared with your grandfather's blood, with your guru's blood, with your brother's blood? So that was his objection. How can we enjoy? So I won't fight. Anarya Jushtam, this is not befitting the Aryans, because you're thinking about what's good for you only. And an Aryan has to think, what is my duty? I may like it, I may not like it. It may be happy, or it may be frustrating. But it's my duty, I have to do it. People take it so easily in Kali Yuga. Even if they've taken a vow, they'll break the vow because it's inconvenient, or because I didn't realize when I made the vow that it would come to this. Marriage vows, this vow, that vow, everything just becomes, wait a second, what about my sense gratification? So here, the son's duty is to see to the welfare of the parents. It's a matter of duty. It may be inconvenient, they may sometimes not be the most pleasant to deal with, they may be unreasonable, but he has to see to it. That's his duty. After all, how reasonable was he when he was a child? How pleasant was he? In so many circumstances, the mother and father had to go through so much trouble, botheration, anxiety, and who knows what, for his sake. Now he says, well, thanks, but anyway, everyone has his own life. It's so ungrateful. Similarly for the cow, I drink your blood, I drink your milk, and then I slit your throat. No gratitude that the cow has given me her milk, so she's like my mother, I have to see to her welfare. No, just drink the milk and slit the throat. And where this begins, Prabhupada makes the point next. It's the duty of the son to serve his parents, however great the son may be. Indirectly, Krishna wanted to teach the atheists who do not accept the supreme fatherhood of God. And they may learn from this action how much the Supreme Father has to be respected. If we have to respect ordinary parents, the parents of this body, how much should we respect the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Father of all living entities? How much respect should be given to Krishna? Therefore, those who ultimately give up all family connections for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not wrong, because they've taken up a higher responsibility. Devarshi bhutapta nrinam patrinam nakinkaram nayam Rajan Sharanyam. if they give up all other duties to take shelter of Krishna, then they don't owe anything to anyone. Then they don't owe anything to anyone. But minus that, I don't surrender to Krishna, and I neglect my material duties also. That's just sinful. That's just irresponsible. Irresponsible means I have responsibility, I don't want to accept it. Irresponsible. Indirectly, the parents can sometimes be blamed because they don't train the children to be responsible. That's also. Then who can they blame? In ISKCON also, the children have to be trained that you'll have to take this responsibility. That it's not just that you have your own happy life, but human life means responsibility. What is that? You'll have to take responsibility for your parents also. Not that ISKCON will execute your responsibility. Your parents bring you up and then you say, okay, ISKCON, you take care of my parents. Let me enjoy. The children have to take responsibility. Or if the husband takes sannyas, then the son has to take responsibility for the mother. These things need to be taught. They don't automatically reveal themselves to all. It requires training. So these principles need to be taught. What are the proper duties of the human being? Yes. Any other questions?
Like many outsiders criticize ISKCON brahmacharis because they leave their needy parents and join ashram. Among them there are two categories: those who have joined ashram and are practicing sadhana bhakti very nicely, and those who have joined ashram but are not even practicing devotional services properly. So, like, how can all...
What are they doing in the ashram if they're not practicing devotional service?
Pardon?
What are they doing in the ashram if they're not practicing devotional service?
For a year or two they might have practiced nicely, but now their enthusiasm level has gone down. So how the long karma will act?
Of course, nicely is a relative term, but if they're not following the usual standards, better to send them home. Better to send them home. ISKCON's not a free hotel. Or it's not like a program's not that you work a year or two and then the rest of your life you're entitled to free room and board. It's not that. It's for those who are serious about following. Those who follow should be allowed to stay in the ashram. Those who don't follow should go home. They don't benefit either themselves or anyone else by staying in the ashram and doing nothing, or working for their own personal interests. Is that okay? Prabhupada said the managers should be very attentive to this point. That ISKCON is not meant for serving as a free hotel. To say nothing is serving as like an exploitation ground. A place where there's all these resources that I can leech off of. In the doctor's office, there's a picture because one of the items of panchakarma is bloodletting, for which they use leeches. And leech goes on your body and sucks the blood. So ISKCON should not invite people to come and attach themselves to the institution and look for a vein to suck blood from. And if such a situation develops, then the leech should be, however, I don't know even how you pull a leech out off the body. I guess they attach themselves pretty hard. But there's a way, certainly. So ISKCON is not meant to provide a comfortable and comfortable source of abundant profit for leeches. It's not meant for that. It's meant for people who want to sincerely serve, giving up their own self-interest. Not for those who think that, wow, I could plunder big time by joining ISKCON. Or for those who join ISKCON for some higher purpose and then start to see green cards and accounts that can be plundered and land that can be played with, and all of these things. It's not meant for that. Now, those who are in charge have to be very careful about these things, as Prabhupada was. Prabhupada was vigilant to guard against these things. And so those who are the leaders of ISKCON have to be vigilant. And then the atmosphere becomes nice for those who want the real thing. If the ashram becomes crowded with people who are just enjoying the free hotel, then those who are serious become disturbed or diverted themselves, and everything deteriorates. So the thing should be kept pure. Okay, we have a little more time. These are very endearing activities of Krishna. How he's presenting to Vasudeva and Devaki after killing Kamsa, that please forgive us, we weren't able to serve you. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's falling at the feet of Vasudeva, Devaki, please forgive us, we weren't able to serve you properly. How humble Krishna is. The Rajasuya sacrifice, he was washing the feet of all the guests. He took that service. So this is one of Krishna's qualities. He's humble. Yadyaratriti shreshtas tattadeve tarojana. So by his personal example, Krishna shows how a human being should act. Anything else?
So, when the parents are forbidding the child to join the ashram, and the parents are ISKCON devotees initially, but they are ISKCON devotees.
Then somehow this has to be sorted out. I can't, sort out hypothetical cases where.
But this child is just joining ISKCON because he has heard that it's too difficult in family life.
That
the family life is just too difficult.
that's a good reason to join ISKCON.
It's not worth it.
That's good. Well, a good reason. Prabhupada asked me that one time. Prabhupada came to Boston right after I was initiated, like the next day or something. And I got the service of going to Boston from New York to assist his servants in his personal service, a couple of weeks. So Prabhupada was staying in this little house, and one of his students, Pradyumna, the Sanskrit editor, came to see Prabhupada. He was living in Boston at that time, at the temple. And there was some discussion. So I wasn't there for the discussion, but then I came to Prabhupada's room, and it became clear that the discussion had been that Pradyumna was interested in getting married. A young man at that time, interested in getting married. Later he did marry. So that was the discussion. Prabhupada said, "So Jayadvaita, you would also like to get married?" I was about 19 at the time. "You would also like to get married?" I said, "No, Prabhupada." I said, it's so much trouble. Maintain a wife and all that. I don't. Prabhupada said, "Oh, you are chanting Hare Krishna and feeling happy." He didn't say, "Oh no, it's not trouble, you should dive right in." No. That's a very good reason to avoid householder life. It's so expensive.
There's a 14th chapter, the fifth canto.
Yeah. It's nothing, just on the grounds of how expensive it is. Householder life is so costly. Brahmachari life is practically free.
There's a seminar you gave. Hopes and horrors of household life.
Yeah. One day hope, 5 days horrors.
It's too difficult to find any hope in that seminar.
No, there's hope. There's Krishna conscious family life, all of those things are there. But still, so troublesome, expensive, and trying to, it's enough to try to satisfy our own mind. Then we have to try to satisfy our wife's mind. And then you have children, you have to try to satisfy these. You have all these people to try to satisfy. One of my godbrothers said it's like having two bodies. How much trouble is one body? Now you have two. As we come to the doctor, we have some trouble with our body. Now you'd multiply that times 2. And you multiply the expenses times 2. Times 3, times 4, times 5. Actually, householder life means so much trouble. But still the trouble can be accepted for advancement in Krishna consciousness. Then that's the hope. The horrors are well known. Prabhupada always encouraged, if you can avoid householder life, it's better. If not, get married, Krishna conscious family life. But his first choice was, if you can avoid it, that's better. Then you save your time for, so many times I'm approached, standard question from the householders. What do we do when, what should a devotee do if has so little time for chanting his rounds and hearing and chanting because he's busy with his job and his family? The standard question, right? Every householder practically has that question. we have so many duties and responsibilities and family life, for our job, for the children, for the wife. So what can we do? How can we find time for hearing and chanting and reading? So it becomes not so easy. So now you've come late to ask that question. If you'd asked when you were a brahmachari, we could have told you that this is what will happen. Think twice. But now you're free. You can, lots of time to chant, to read, to hear. If you want to go someplace, you don't have to consult your better half to see if it's all right. You can go. You can travel around the world. For preaching, you can go here, you can go there. You have so much time for service. You don't have to check in to a job. Otherwise, in married life, then now you have to manage these things, do it nicely, Krishna consciousness. But if you can save yourself the trouble, why not? Yes?
So in that whole seminar, there was one quote you made from Srila Prabhupada, that some boys are so degraded that they are not qualified to join the Grahastha ashram, they better remain brahmacharis.
I don't recall that. But one devotee asked to take sannyas. Prabhupada said, "You're just disappointed because no woman would have you." And then Prabhupada gave him sannyas. But yeah, if you're incompetent, that's also there. Some people, they're incompetent. They do a terrible job of trying to manage a family. They'd just be a disaster for their wife, for their children. So why create such a disaster for others? Let them be nice, incompetent brahmacharis. Incompetent means
Did you say incompetent?
incompetent means materially incompetent. You know, they can't move the material energy around. So, but all right, remain brahmachari. Then you don't have to. You just chant Hare Krishna, do some simple service, and you know why get into this whole complicated mess of something? You know, there's some people they can really manage, like kings. Hey, you can marry 50 wives because you can manage it. You can manage it, and so many people can't even manage to support one wife. So, you know, let some people marry 50 and let others marry none. That was Prabhupada's solution, actually. That some of them, let them marry more than one wife. He said, after all, he said, they're already spoiled. So if they accept another wife, it's all right. Anyway, that's not generally legal. In Africa it is. India still, right? You can marry more than one wife. No?
In Gujarat, some people have more than one wife.
Is it now illegal in India to have more than one wife?
Yes, I heard so.
I don't know. I never looked into it because I never had, was never facing the problem. But for generations and generations, it's been the standard that one could marry more than one.
In India, the Muslims can marry more than one wife, the Hindus cannot.
Acha,
Yes.
is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then there's some advice we can give to our young men who'd like to get married to more than one. You just become a Muslim and be happy.
One of the major film stars did that. He got converted to Muslim.
Hmm?
He got converted. One of the major film stars back in the day.
Converted to Islam so that he could have an extra wife. Yeah, that Henry VIII in English history became a Protestant because the Roman Catholic Church wouldn't sanction divorce. So rather than say, all right, then I won't get divorced, all right, then I'll become Protestant. that way. England became Protestant so that he could get divorced. Well, these things are there. People are thinking how to adjust religious principles for their own sense gratification and convenience. Anyway.
So, when you were going through Prabhupada's books, when you were reading your own time, so when you read this statement that we should follow our parents, we should do our duty to serve them, did it ever occur to you that why am I not doing that?
No. I mean, maybe I thought about it, but I didn't go through some big crisis and think, oh my goodness, what am I doing? No. Also, you have to consider that Indians have these deep samskars. It's very deeply rooted in the Indian heart that I have to serve my parents. Therefore, it's very difficult if some young man has his parents dependent, for him to just join the ashram. Very, very difficult. Because he feels naturally responsible. And the whole society is generally, and things are changing, but generally encouraging him that yes, you have to serve your parents. So it's very deeply rooted in the Indian psyche that, especially if you're the eldest son, forget it. You're the only son or the eldest son, you must. So these things are there. In America, it's like, who thinks about it?
One devotee was talking about that American people, sometimes boys, students, were worried about the families.
American
students who joined ISKCON, sometimes they were, like Sasuru Maharaj wrote about it, that they were concerned about the families, and I was surprised.
Yeah, no, it's not totally gone. I mean, they do think about their families. What will my father think? What will my mother think? But, on a scale of, 1 to 100, in India it's like up in the high 90s, and in America it's down in the 10s. 5, 10, 2, 1. It's way down there. The sense of responsibility is very weak. The idea of duty, even. The very idea of duty, that you have things that you have to do because it's your duty, is like, it rubs people the wrong way. Okay, I do things because I want to, I do things because I make them happy, I do things to make other people happy, but it's all volition, it's all what I want to do. It's all what feels right to me, what makes me feel good. That's how Americans think. And Indians, Chinese, other Japanese, much more what my duty is. And especially in relationship to family, what my duty is. They can't just think, what do I want to do? What would make me happy? So this is, and in America previously it was like that. Now it's all gone to the dogs. But if you went back a few hundred years in America, the same thing. At 26, my father allowed me to start my own business. Now it's all shot. I remember one of my cousins, her father, who was a doctor, wanted to restrict her from going out dating and this one or that one. Dad, you're so old-fashioned. And, that was like 50 years ago. That was 50 years ago. Now, her father wouldn't even dream, a father now wouldn't even dream of, restrict my daughter from dating. I mean, like, what? Who am I? But back then, the father still considered it his duty. In some sort of a intuitive way, that this is something I should be attentive to. And it's enough for the daughter to say, oh, Daddy, you're so out of it, so old-fashioned. You're out of step with the times. So duty. One has to know what one's duty is. Karya Shastra Vidam. What is that? No. Tasmat Shastra Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vivastita. Okay. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.